Okay, good morning. My name is Assistant Chief Scott Graham, Graham, with Montgomery County, Maryland Fire and Rescue Service. We'd like to welcome you this morning, along with our guests from Suburban Hospital, to introduce to you the LifeNet program, which is now in full force in Montgomery County. It is a program that allows our paramedics, both on our transporting ambulances as well as our paramedic engine companies, to transmit much better data in the realm of electrocardiograms and reducing our door-to-balloon time of our patients suffering from acute myocardial infarction or heart attacks in Montgomery County. The reduction in the door-to-balloon time is something that is allowing our patients to seek better outcomes. They're allowed to leave our hospitals much sooner with much more productive lives than, say, 20 years ago, when people may not leave a hospital for a week to 10 days. This is something that we share with 4 of our partner hospitals in Montgomery County, including here at Suburban, Shady Grove Adventist Hospital, Washington Adventist Hospital, and Holy Cross Hospital. I'd like to introduce now Assistant Chief Diane Zuspan. She is the Chief of our Emergency Medical Services Program, and she'll explain more in detail the LifeNet program. Chief Zuspan.
Good morning. Back in May of 2011, we partnered with the 4 cardiac intervention centers in the county, the 4 hospitals Chief Graham mentioned, to put into place the hardware and software necessary to allow us to transmit EKGs from the patient's home. What this does is it allows us to get the EKG to the hospital. They can read it, they can determine that it's necessary for the patient to go to the cardiac cath lab, and they can start getting that cardiac cath ready so that when we get to the hospital, we very frequently actually skip the emergency room and go straight to the cardiac cath lab, once again decreasing that door-to-balloon time. In other words, the time that the patient starts experiencing cardiac symptoms to the time that they actually open the vessel up in the cardiac cath lab, trying to keep that under 90 minutes. We measure that frequently. Prior to the LifeNet system, the goal is 90 minutes. We used to meet that goal about 75 or 80%, maybe sometimes up to 90% in a quarter. However, since LifeNet's been in place, the last quarter we met that goal of 90 minutes 100% of the time. So it really does decrease that time that the patient has between experiencing the symptoms and getting their heart vessel opened up. We have transmitted, since, as I said, this was put in place May 26th. Since then, we've transmitted over 700 EKGs, and we have about 122 actual STEMI heart attacks that went to cath labs with good outcomes transported since that time.
Okay, thank you, Chief Zuspan. Now I'd like to introduce from the emergency department here at Suburban, Dr. Carmody. Dr. Carmody.
Hi. So at Suburban Hospital, we've been working hard since 2006 at trying to decrease the time from when the patient gets to the emergency department to the cath lab, as it's been proven that decrease in time saves lives. So one of the technologies that we've been trying to acquire since 2006 is the LifeNet technology, and it's been very, very helpful in that we're getting a call from the ambulance, say 20 minutes before they get here, that a patient is having a heart attack, and that allows us to mobilize the cardiac team and the ED staff to get the patient to the cath lab as fast as possible. Since its institution, we've had a lot of success with it. The patients are getting to the cath lab much faster, and it's been a collaborative between EMS and the emergency department and cardiac staff to get the best possible care for our heart attack patients. Here at Suburban, we've been very proud of our care for cardiac patients, and we think we're going to get even better in the months and years to come. So.
Thanks, Doc. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Greg Kunkumian, who is the Medical Director of the Cardiac Care Unit here at Suburban.
Thank you. There are approximately 1.5 million heart attacks per year in the United States. The good news about this unfortunate statistic is that over the past 10 years, there has been about a 30% reduction in cardiovascular deaths. Part of that reduction is because of the excellent care in individuals who present with acute myocardial infarctions, heart attacks. And a key new component of that treatment really is early diagnosis and treatment for people suffering heart attacks, particularly the ST elevation type. And this new transmission of EKGs from rigs to the emergency room, to the cardiologist on call, is shortening the amount of time between the patient's symptoms and presentation to treatment. And the treatment ultimately is, for many of these patients, opening a blocked artery. The faster that occurs, the better the patient does. And so this collaboration, these new tools really are effective through statistics that are available in showing that we're making good success in treatment of patients with heart disease and particularly heart attacks.
Before we open up to questions, what I'd like to emphasize is this public-private partnership. We are experiencing probably some economic times that we've never experienced before in the fire rescue service. If it weren't for our partners like Suburban, Shady Grove, Washington Adventist, Holy Cross to invest in these technologies to work with us, the county's investment in our 4-person staffing for our paramedic engine companies and our ALS transports, these reductions that Dr. Kunkumian was speaking about may not occur. So we need to continue with these partnerships. Again, it is vital to us, our partnership, especially here at Suburban, as one of our regional trauma centers as well. We'll continue moving those forward and developing new technologies and allowing the technologies that are developed each day, probably by the hour, to be tested and to be brought into the field of emergency medicine, both pre-hospital and in our hospitals. So now we'll open it up to you all for any questions that you may have of any of the staff. Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about the success? And I have a specific question because you said it allows you to transmit the information from the home.
Correct.
This can also be used in the ambulance as well, right? Because
Correct.
it's about moving them here as soon as possible.
Right, it's a piece of portable. It's a piece of portable equipment. The LifePack, the transmission comes from the cardiac monitor, which we normally bring into the house. We normally do the first 12 lead in the house due to the fact that once someone starts complaining of cardiac symptoms, we want to find out as soon as possible if they're having some EKG changes. So we do it in the house, and it takes literally 10 more seconds to push the transmit button to send it there, to send it to the hospital ER of where we're going to, the receiving facility. What that does is it gets them the most advanced time so that they can set up. And what we frequently do is we transmit from the house. We can also transmit serially if we're seeing any more changes. So sometimes we transmit 4 times on one patient if they're experiencing some changes.
So what's the difference between what this machine offers and what happened before when an EMS would come and pick you up and move in the ambulance and call forward and say, we think we have a cardiac arrest? How is this different?
It's different in that what we used to do is we used to print a copy of the EKG and not be able to show it to them until we got to the facility. So we would hand it to them when we got here, and they would look at it and say, you're right, you know, yes, this is one candidate for the cardiac cath lab, and then that process of ramping up the cardiac cath lab, getting the staff in place, would take place. So now what they're doing is they're doing it 20 minutes or so before that because they have the copy of it in their hand that much sooner.
Will this be in every ambulance?
Yeah, it's in every advanced life support transport unit and on every paramedic engine has the capability to do this.
How many units is that?
That is,
About.
It's in excess of 60.
Can you,
I'm sorry.
oh, sorry.
Currently in the county, there are 37 engine companies assigned to Montgomery County. About 2/3 of those now are equipped as paramedic engine companies, and there are 42 transporting units in the county, and about 35 of those are equipped as advanced life support capable. So between the paramedic engine companies that arrive on the scene sometimes before the transport unit, the engine company can upgrade any transport unit we have, whether it's a basic life support or an advanced life support unit, and have this technology readily available.
So you were saying that this is already working in the county.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that, about the success of this equipment in the county, what you've experienced since you started it.
Well, as I said, since we started it, we always measured door-to-balloon times, and what we were finding is we would meet the 90% goal about 85, 90% of the time. So there were some patients where we wouldn't meet that goal because, as I said, we would wait to hand them a copy when we got to the emergency room. What we experienced in the last quarter was 100% of the patients that needed cardiac cath had a door-to-balloon time of under 90 minutes. And actually, what the trend now is to start measuring not just door to balloon time, which door means the door of the hospital to the balloon time. What we're going to start measuring is what they call E to B, emergency to balloon time, which is E would be the first time, the 911 call that they make. So it's the first time they reach out to a medical professional saying someone's having a heart attack or, you know, have complaints such as those. So we're going to start measuring those with a goal of trying to make it under 90 minutes. So from the 911 call to the vessel being opened up in the cath lab. Pretty ambitious to keep that under 90 minutes. You know, we have transport times and everything else, but we would never be able to do that without the technology.
And by balloon, you mean the surgery?
Yeah, and the intervention, well, they can talk better.
No. Yeah, so I mean, the key to good outcomes for individuals having a heart attack is preservation of the heart muscle. And the quicker that a blocked artery is open, the less damage to the heart muscle, and therefore the better a patient does. So the door is the time the patient arrives to the hospital here at Suburban. Balloon is the time here in the cath lab at Suburban that the artery is opened. And that time period is very important. And now the more ambitious goal will be in the near future, time that EMS is notified that a patient is having symptoms, arriving to the balloon or opening of the artery. And the quicker this is all done, the better patients do. And so that's the key part of this is the EKG, being able to diagnose accurately whether a person is or isn't having a heart attack and mobilizing forces to treat the patient.
So are you all saving more lives by closing that time, or are you able to get to the balloon time quicker? Can you make the distinction? If you are, say so.
The two are one and the same, we believe. And I think all the data and research available shows that the quicker an artery is open, the fewer lives that are lost, and not only lives lost, but improvement in quality of life. Less congestive heart failure, less life-threatening arrhythmias related to heart attacks. So yeah, the answer is yes. There is a significant improvement in terms of quality of life and reduction in death when the door-to-balloon time is reduced.
An example is in your press packet of one of our success stories, one of many actually. We had a 61-year-old male this past summer who was experiencing symptoms, called 911. When the paramedics arrived and they did their diagnosis with the electrocardiogram, they notified Suburban Hospital through the LifeNet program or LifeNet system. Suburban's emergency department confirmed that this person was in fact having a cardiac event and activated their Code Heart program. So from the time this person called 911, as Chief Zuspan was talking about, until the time this person was in the cath lab and successfully opened up, it was 58 minutes. And as they spoke earlier, the quality of life is something that we're talking about here. We have firefighters working today who have had cardiac events in the past who were retired for all intents and purposes because they had no ability to come back. We actually have firefighters who have had catheterizations because there was early detection, early diagnosis, and early intervention, and they're actually back on the job today. So we're seeing a great improvement in the quality of life thanks to these types of programs.
Prior to 2006, before the importance of door-to-balloon time was recognized, it was actually 35% of people were going from the emergency department to the cath lab in under 90 minutes. When it was realized that people were dying because of increased time from the emergency department to the cath lab, it was an aggressive initiative was started to decrease that time. So now we've gone from 35% of people going to 90 minutes to now we are having upwards of 90% to 100% of less than 90 minutes. And as a result, we're having increased lives saved for that.
Okay. If there are no other questions, one thing we want to reiterate is that call 911 early. The signs and symptoms, probably one of the first signs and symptoms of having a heart attack is denial. If you feel you're having any type of a cardiac event, activate 911 early because programs like this definitely save lives.